Heroism starts with one brave decision to do the right thing. Carlotta Walls.
We realized in 1957 that this was not an easy journey. It was one in which we thought we were simply exercising our right to the best education that was available in Little Rock, Arkansas. Ernest Green.
Also, I knew as well that hundreds of people had died in the fight for justice before I arrived on the scene. I could not disrespect their efforts by saying no to my opportunity to be involved in the same struggle. Terrence Roberts.
The humiliating expectations and traditions of segregation creep over you, slowly stealing a teaspoon of your self-esteem each day. Melba Beals.
The white students hate me. Why do they hate me so much? Minnie Jean Brown Tricky.
I thought he, Faubus, was there to protect me. How wrong was I? Thelma Mothershed.
We didn't know that his, Faubus's, idea of keeping the peace was keeping the blacks out. Jefferson Thomas.
It was the longest block I ever walked in my whole life. Elizabeth Eckford.
I didn't share one class with another black person. Gloria Ray.
Together they formed the Little Rock Nine. These 9 African American students that built upon the foundation of the Civil Rights Movement and paved the way to an equal future in education. Let education ring. The Little Rock Nine to fight for equal rights spurs government's responsibility to educate all. The Little Rock Nine were denied the right to have a fair education. Even though segregation was illegal, the state and federal government struggled to fulfill their responsibilities and support the law. Segregation, the action or state of being set apart, is a term that could define the late 1890s and beyond. Due to the Jim Crow laws, myriad citizens, especially Southerners, believed that black and white people should be segregated. During 1896 in the South, the Jim Crow laws forced black people to use separate facilities. Hotels, bathrooms, train cars, and schools were all segregated due to these laws. At this time, segregation was legal, for as long as these facilities carried out the idea of separate but equal, then the separation was not unconstitutional. Segregation in schools was an issue that was commonly protested in the 1950s. Overall, more money was spent to benefit all white schools than those for blacks. In 1954, Reverend Oliver Brown of Topeka attempted to send his daughter, Linda Brown, to an all-white public school. When she was denied entrance, he filed a lawsuit against the Board of Education. This case became known as the Brown v. Board of Education. Little did society know, this was the final tipping point before segregation became illegal. After much debate, the U.S. Supreme Court declared this case and 5 similar cases unconstitutional. The 14th Amendment protected the rights of every person and granted them the right to have equal learning opportunities. The Brown v. Board of Education case resulted in the elimination of segregation later that year, especially in schools. Both white and black students had the secured right to a proper education. Integration in schools was now legal and enforced in northern and southern states. When Horace Mann Middle School, a school for blacks, was notified of this new law, they orchestrated a group of 39 black students. On September 4th of 1957, only 9 of those students showed up. The group was later known as the Little Rock Nine. Together, they were determined to enter a central high school located in Little Rock, Arkansas. Daisy Bates, the president of the NAACP, led the Little Rock Nine and believed that the complexion of your skin should not decide what rights a person has. She proceeded even though she got tons of hate and sheltered many children. The people believed that the integration of Central High would never have occurred without the efforts of Bates. Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas, wanted to support the majority of the population's opinion by promoting segregation. The people believed that segregation was morally right because that was the belief that they were raised with. Governor Faubus expressed his view by sending the National Guard of Arkansas to barricade the school, thus preventing the Little Rock Nine from entering. He claimed that this would stop racial violence and maintain order. Although as governor he had the right to use the National Guard, this action was getting in the way of the new law. This was going against the federal court, for it was interfering with the desegregation of Central High School. Governor Faubus was taking away the rights of the Little Rock Nine to a proper education. In other words, he obstructed the law. One of the National Guard said on the first day of school, "This school is off limits to Negro students." Not only did the National Guard of Arkansas try to prevent the Nine from getting into the school, but the hostile mob harassed them. This unruly crowd of people shouted mean names, kicked, and spat on the Little Rock Nine as they made their first attempt to enter. This violent response forced President Eisenhower to take action. He had to get involved since Governor Faubus was defying the law. To execute the plan of desegregation, the president sent the 101st Airborne Division to escort the 9 into the school. He sent out an executive order to alert the people of his idea.
Use of the 101st says to the people of Little Rock, it says to anybody in this country, we mean business.
On September 24th of 1957, the troops guided the 9 students out of the car in which they all rode to Central High together. As they journeyed to a side entrance of the school, they were swarmed by both black and white press. 4 black men in particular became the mob's main target. The men were kicked, harassed, and beaten, making them run away from the scene. Their right to freedom of both speech and press was taken away purely because they were black. The Little Rock 9 continued their fight for equal rights on September 25, 1957. Making their 3rd attempt to enter Central High through the main entrance, the 101st Airborne Division secured both the 9 courageous students' safety and right to proper education as they safely led them up the stairs. Yet again, the hectic mob showed up to stop them from attending school that day. The Little Rock 9 wore brave faces and successfully made it to their first class.
And many days when somebody's beating you in the back with a tennis racket, you're spitting up blood, or somebody's putting acid in your eyes, the only thing you got is a smile.
I think there was a great failure there among the teachers and administration.
Generally speaking, the teachers were unsuccessful in upholding their responsibilities. Rather than welcoming the poor students, they failed to discipline the children that harassed the Little Rock 9 on a daily basis. The classroom environment was anything and everything but friendly. Waiting outside the classrooms after each period were soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division. They were not there to protect them from getting kicked or other minor injuries, but their only responsibility was to keep them alive. This newspaper shows how big of a crisis sending the 101st Airborne Division into Arkansas was. On the other hand, the National Guard of Arkansas's responsibility was to stop the Little Rock 9 from entering the school on September 4, 1957. These orders were from Governor Faubus. This shows that Governor Faubus did not fulfill his responsibility as a governor. He did not think of the federal responsibility to enforce the law, but instead favored the majority's opinion, which was that segregation was the right thing.
He was a pretty sensible man. And he's somebody who, when he ran for governor of Arkansas, ran as a different kind of guy. He ran as a segregationist.
President Eisenhower knew he had to put a stop to Governor Faubus' actions because he was obstructing the law. President Eisenhower met with Governor Faubus on September 21, 1957, in Newport, Rhode Island, to discuss his actions regarding sending the National Guard of Arkansas to stop the desegregation. President Eisenhower's responsibility was to make sure everybody was safe and supported the law put in order from the Brown v. Board of Education case. He did not want to get involved at first because he wanted the local authorities of the crisis to muster a solution. Eventually, he knew that he had to partake in fixing this problem. Without President Eisenhower, the Little Rock 9 may have never gotten the chance to integrate Central High School. He also authorized the Secretary of Defense to remove the obstruction of justice by taking any appropriate steps to enforce the orders. The mob thought it was their responsibility to make sure that desegregation was delayed for as long as possible. They thought it was their job to make the Little Rock 9 feel worthless. They also felt as if they made their experience terrible, then the 9 students would voluntarily drop out of the process. Mary Ann Burleson was one of the white witnesses of the crisis.
I was raised in a racist family, and the main reason I want to be here today is to tell you how regretful I am for causing what should have been the best year of your life the most miserable.
She shouted at Elizabeth Eckford, 2468, "We don't want to integrate." She was indeed one of the white students in the mob. She went along with the idea because she was afraid. The Little Rock 9 also held the responsibility of being a proper role model to younger black children. This was because they were the first 9 in Arkansas to integrate into an all-white school. Even though they were originally denied the right to go to Central High School, they pursued their opportunity to desegregate an originally all-white environment. Thankfully, the federal and state government, who at one point struggled to fulfill their responsibilities and support the law, eventually came to a consensus. The Little Rock 9's actions are an impeccable example of a courageous decision for equality. They had a major impact on the rights and responsibilities of every educated American citizen today.
It's Little Rock is the Gettysburg, or it's the Antietam of the Civil Rights era.
One can only hope that future generations carry on to fulfill the responsibilities that come with the right to a proper education. And as long as this happens, the Little Rock Knives legacy will truly live on forever.